Hello, my name is Aaron and I'm a Principal Technical Product Specialist for Zscaler Workload Communications. Today, we're going to take a quick look at using AWS tagging for workload communications to implement policy. Here, we see our developer John spinning up a new instance inside of AWS using Terraform. Notice the tag values added as variable inputs. This machine at 10.1.1.90 will have the tags API and dev associated with it. Hopping into the AWS interface, we can see our new machine and review the tags that were applied to it. Pivoting to the Workload Communications dashboard, we can see that these tags were picked up here as well. The Workload Communications tag discovery process is done fully as a service once permission is granted. Creating policy around these tags begins in the ZIA portal. Workload groups are a new construct being introduced that allow administrators to construct building blocks for workload tagging policy using Boolean logic. Here, we'll create an AWS Dev Workloads group that will reference our app and group tags. This workload group will trigger if the values of these tags are API and dev. It's important to note that because Zscaler uses the namespace functionality, Workload Communications can avoid things like IP address overlap when creating policy through workload groups. Next, we'll create another workload group based on an immutable tag like VPC name. Now, let's create some policy. First, we'll create a firewall rule to prevent outbound SSH access. Make note here that, aside from the application identifier of SSH, the only other criteria used in this policy is the workload group. In other words, this policy triggers exclusively on tag values and the SSH application. Furthermore, we'll create an SSL policy to upscale any SSL connections from our workloads in the dev VPC to TLS 1.2. Again, note that the only criteria used in this policy is the tag values configured within the workload group dev VPC. Now, lastly, we'll add in a simple URL filtering policy to allow our new app to access a few API segments and GitHub repositories. Now back to John. Here, John's testing the firewall policy by attempting to clone a Git repo using SSH. As you can see, the connection was immediately reset. And to simulate an API call, John issues the curl command. We expect this traffic to succeed, but more importantly, we want to ensure that it was SSL inspected, as you can see here. Finally, John sends some traffic to a blocked URL to verify our URL policy. In the ZIA portal, we can verify this traffic and policy matches. Here's our firewall policy blocking SSH. And here's our simulated API calls to IP-whois, as well as 4chan. All of this policy was triggered exclusively on tagging values passed into ZIA via Workload Communications. Thank you for joining me in this video, and I hope you found it useful.